lady's farm. One of his friends is taking care of him. And he's got pneumonia and he's not recovering. And so one day he tells her to look under his bed. And she does. And instead of it being some weird sex game, which is what I would think it would have been if I had been her, it turns out he's got a big flat full of gold. And I mean really rich gold ore. And he says he's been living off of it for the past 20 years. And it comes from this vein in the Superstition Mountains he found. And he tries to tell them where it is, but he really tells them that there's no way they'll find it without him, that he would have to be there. He tries to draw them a map. He really doesn't have the strength. So long story short, he just tells them where it is, but he tells them they really have no hope of finding it.
Gotcha.
So that was in the late 1800s.
And nobody's found it since.
Nobody has, though. If you go to lostdutchmanmine.com, five guys from Arizona claim to have found it, but I just based on their website and the way it's set up, I don't really believe them.
Well, it is Five Guys, and they have great pizza, great burgers.
That is true.
Okay, no.
And French fries. But they do.
These guys on drugs or something.
So, now we know, like I said, that Jacob Waltz existed. We know he came from Germany. We know he relocated to Arizona. And so it is entirely possible that he found this mine.
Well, sure.
And the girl and the best friend who was at his bedside went and looked for the mine.
Well, yeah.
And she spent everything she had looking for this mine and found nothing.
Well, then she should have been living in Arizona and not, or she should have been living in Nevada and Vegas and not Arizona. She's going to go spending everything she has to look for a mine that...
Now, in 1931, amateur explorer and treasure hunter Adolf Ruth heard the story of the Lost Dutchman Mine, and he decided that he was going to go and seek it out. Now, he went to a ranch and started to put together, and they tried to talk him out of it because the Superstition Mountains are now a place for groups of men with full equipment. I mean, it's a dangerous place. Right. It's certainly not a place for an old man to go by himself to look for a gold mine.
Well, sure.
Well, he never came back. And years later, they found his skull with 2 holes in it. The holes identified as bullet holes.
Great.
Funsy.
So, in other words, that turned out well for him.
Right. Now, years later, there was a gentleman by the name of Glasser who claimed to have found them, that he'd figured out where the mine was through studying the original clues. And he called a couple people to come with him, but they couldn't go. And he's like, well, I'm not waiting. I'm going to go get there. I'll see you this next week. Well, his wife drops him off. He says, pick him up in 3 days' time. She goes back. He's not there. And eventually he's found by a ranch hand who finds the body. And at a coroner's inquest, they figure out that he died of a heart attack. But there was another guy out on the trail that day.
I see.
And now this guy, they think, got into his father's pack, or Mr. Glasser's pack, because the kid's son, at one point, goes and sees one of his friends.
Uh-huh.
Well, when he does, his friend's like, I just talked to a Randy Glasser, and he didn't look anything like you. So the guy shows him his driver's license, prove he's really this guy's son. Well, it turns out that the first guy matched up with the guy that they'd seen wandering around near the Superstition Mountains that day. And that guy had actual gold that looked like it was from the Superstition Mountain lode, which they think he got from Donald Glasser's backpack.
Huh. Interesting.
So, long story short, it's possible that the gold was discovered by this guy. I mean, and certainly there's some mystery around it with this guy posing as his son.
Right.
But that is the story of the Lost Dutchman Mine in the Superstition Mountains. And Lost Dutchman Mine is one of those things that turns up in a lot of things, so a lot of people think it's fictional, but it's absolutely real. Because it's called the Lost Dutchman because the mine is lost, and the guy who found it was Deutsch, or Dutch.
Or a Dutchman.
So...
And it's one of the main Arizona mysteries, unsolved mysteries of the day.
Well, to my mind, it's still unsolved. Although, like I said, 5 guys from Ohio who go to Sturgis and aren't miners claim to have found it. Again, looking at their website, I don't believe they found their own feet. I really don't believe any of the things they've said. There's nothing on their website that suggests that they actually found it. The photos look like they're stock photos. Not to mention, the land that the Superstition Mountains is on is now a national state park. So if you go in there without a treasure tag or treasure trove tag or whatever, basically, which is something that says, hey, I'm looking for treasure, and if I find it, I get a certain percentage of it. If you go in without that, anything you find there is in the federal government's anyway.
There you go.
So I have my sincere doubts that these guys found anything and are just bragging and using the internet to do it.
Well, they wouldn't be the first, I'm sure they won't be the last.
Because their site is full of vague stuff, punctuated by, we really did it, which doesn't inspire me with confidence.
Gotcha.
It has to be something like, if we did it, I'm sure you can do it too. Something like that. Not, we did it, discuss it. Give some people some confidence. You know?
But everything from episodes of Disney to movies, the Lost Dutchman Mine has been a feature in.
Sure has.
So it is a real place, and there are to this day bad people in the Superstition Mountains who jealously guard their secrets, and if you come wandering around, will happily put a bullet in your head.
Well, you know, that's kind of the old West trade, I think, and that sort of still lives on in that area in some places. So,
I guess the theme of this week's show is, do you believe it?
Sure, that's a good theme. Did you just come up with that?
Yeah, just off the top of my head.
Awesome. Sure.
So, do you believe that there is a mine in the state of Arizona that's filled with gold that...
Oh, there's probably a bunch.
There's probably a bunch of gold and we don't know gold could be. Could be underground with the dinosaurs. We don't know. We don't dig that far down.
Or do you believe that there is in Boston a lady living in a house that used to be a church and a mortuary that is having all sorts of issues with hauntings?
Yeah. Sure.
So,
a lot of haunted churches. It's not anything different now.
So that's, if we have a theme to this week's show, it's Do You Believe It? For myself And I desperately want to believe. I'm not sure about the first. I hesitate to cast aspersions on a listener, but I just can find no corroborating evidence to what she is telling me. And I would think that some of it would have been newsworthy. Like, I can't even find a mortician in the state of Massachusetts that was stopped from practicing for bad practices. So, again, it just concerns me.
We want to believe, but we need more information.
Right. And as for the Superstition Mountains, I happily believe that Jacob Waltz found some gold. I mean, we know that he must have. He lived for 20 years on almost nothing. There's no record of him earning money, but he lived well for 20 years before he got pneumonia and died. So
there you go.
I certainly believe he found the mine. I certainly believe there's something to that. I just
don't know what it is.
Exactly. And I don't know where it is. If I did, we'd be doing much better. But I also don't know if I believe that 5 guys from Ohio that, other than that, all they do is drive to Sturgis once a year, actually found the mine. And now I think the only thing they found was the domain name. That's what I think they found.
Well, that's possible.
Anyway, so
that's our show.
Yep, that's pretty much it. That's our show.
Don't be too upset there. Krysta, because seems to have wandered off.
Anyway,
apple pie stick.
She's a hungry Krysta. Anyway, what was your take?
For one thing, first things first, girl in Boston, I believe her. I mean, why would she go out of her way to make up a story that wouldn't be real and put it on the show for just casting conspiracy unless she's a terrible person, which I don't think so.
I wouldn't tell Krysta. Gives the benefit of doubt to everybody, Dad.
Well, it's possible, but boy, I couldn't verify any of it through Google search.
I just like to give people chances, and for this one, who would make up having a random husband who lived in a church? I mean, you said it yourself. We were going to move into a church that was reinformed into a house. So why would they go out of their way to make up the conspiracy about the church and how they lived in it and the ghosts and if it was fake or if it is fake, imaginary husband, the sickness, and I'm sure that could happen in real life.
Well, definitely could.
Those things have been recorded in other hauntings, yes, many times. I just
I'm gonna change the story up a little bit as well, just so
Well, the open end of that is that we extended the invitation because Dad did reach out to her several times trying to verify some facts. So we've extended the option for her to give a little more information so that we can be more helpful and more understanding of her situation. So the ball's kind of in her court on that.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the Lost Dutchman's Mine?
The Lost Dutchman's Mine. Did I just say mine? Yeah, I did. Mine. I believe it. I mean, I believe there's gold, and I believe that you can find it if you look for 1,000,000 days, but, I do not believe the five guys who said they got the gold, they can go shove their freaking gold back in the mine if they did, because none of their quotes are good quotes. Like, who says, we finally did it?
Well, and that's the thing. Even if you did find it, unless you apply for it's like a treasure tag.